The following story has been brought to you by StoriesToInspire.org.
I had a neighbor when I lived in Flatbush where I was debating with myself whether I should talk to him or not. He had a little bit of a background, but he and his wife were not from. The kids were certainly not from. They were already elderly, very elderly people. So I told my wife, we should ask them to come into the sukkah on Sukkot. Not to eat the meal with us. By the way, inviting people on Yom Tov is very problematic. If they're not from, I'll say Inyane Bishul, whatever. So I said we should invite them in, invite them for dessert, something like that, Wife said, yeah, good idea. She went over, she went to the missus of the house, and she invited her over, and she said, let me speak to my husband about it. She called back maybe 20 minutes later, said, we'd love to come, which we were shocked. We lived next to Bishkenes for a number of years, and there was never any interaction, and we said it was shocked. Okay, finally, night comes, they come to the sukkah, we sing some zmiras, and after we're sitting there for about 2 hours, the missus says that when she was a young girl, she grew up on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. And her family was religious. And what happened was that the sukkah was tiny. It was on a fire escape. So they didn't allow the women to go into the sukkah. And she said, as a budding young feminist, that bothered her very, very much. And one of the reasons she became so estranged from Yiddishkeit is because they didn't let her sit in the sukkah. She was crying at this point. And she said, I didn't know women are allowed to sit in the sukkah. Thank you, Rabbi. You have no idea what you're doing. The funniest thing was, her husband, who never ever wore yarmulke, after coming to our sukkah that night, for the rest of his life, he wore yarmulke. He lived in our block, we had a pretty frum block, and he wore yarmulke. Hafladik. What do we do already? It's a chiyuv. There's a chiyuv of Kiruv. And v'chol mi she'oiskim b'tzorchei tzibur, you do it taka b'emana, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishalom Skarim for sure. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you siyata d'shmaya that's unbelievable. There's so many stories of siyata d'shmaya that we know in Kiruv that are hafla of a fella. They're Yidden. They're maminim b'nei maminim. If you think that somehow you're not going to affect them, Reb Hill David always says, look at the side, he always says that Kiruv is 100% effective because if you just reach out to them and you're just nice and polite and sweet and you break every stereotype that they have in their head because they think that you're an ogre, you got to be an ogre because, hey, you're not normal, you don't live with the world, right? And you just break that stereotype, they'll never be the same. You change their relationship with the Rebbeinu Shalom. You change their relationship with Yiddishkeit. You've taught them, guess what? You can be normal and be frum. They think it's not shaykh. It's always effective. It's always effective.
Enjoyed this story? Come again. Bring a friend. StoriesToInspire.org